As we celebrate Easter, we celebrate and hopefully are experiencing or are open to experience and want to experience the explosion of God's life of love in us. The explosion of God's light that scatters every darkness in our life. The explosion of God's love that is stronger than any evil that has ever affected us. The explosion of His love and life of light that becomes a fire in our soul. And knowing that God is alive and so much in love with us. The greatest reality of what life is all about. But you know, that realization doesn't come natural to us. It's only by the grace of God that our hearts that are so easily self-absorbed and distracted, wounded, fixated on other things, and attracted to everything but God. And because of the waywardness of the world and all of the spells and cobwebs of the way and the matrix of the way of the world, it's only by the grace of God that we can be awakened, truly be woke by the Spirit of Jesus to allow these veils to be removed to be able to discover the true face of God. Not in a generic sense or a theological, intellectual sense only, that's important, but to really know the face of God in your heart, in your greatest need, out of your own vulnerability and longing and being made for love, to know the face of God in a way that is from within your skin, that reaches into your bones. That doesn't come natural to us. It's only by the Holy Spirit, who is supernatural, that gives us that grace, that impact. And once that happens, there's a new birth. Everything changes. Everything. When we begin to discover God alone is everything and worth my all. When we discover by His grace, our hearts are awakened to realize, oh my gosh, this is real. It's not just some story. It's not just some religion or ritual or show or something we do as a family just to try to foster these, hopefully, feelings of togetherness. It's not just sentimentality or a myth or a legend, some man-made religion. Only by the grace of God and the Holy Spirit can our heart discover, oh my gosh, you are real. This is alive. God is alive. And He is love. And He knows me. And I'm made for Him. And He alone is what makes life most worth living. He is everything. In recovery programs, there's a common expression: either God is nothing or He is everything. And that's, once we get to that point, where by the grace of God, because left to ourselves, what comes natural to us is to be indifferent and mediocre to everything that God has revealed about who He is in His Son. We just don't get it. We just don't get it. And the way the world is so consuming, it's so distracting and absorbing, it's so alluring, it puts us in this kind of spell of seeking ourselves in all these other ways that in the end amount to falsehood, a false self. We get so caught up in that we easily end up having a false image of God and even of our faith as just being something corny, cheesy, outdated, old-fashioned, backwards, not with it. Just for those people. We just don't get it until we are blessed to have that special encounter. That's the heart-to-heart experience of Jesus as alive and real. And that new birth is when we experience the explosion of life. and all that we're made for. And once that touch of the Holy Spirit takes place, where he touches you in the most intimate part of who you are, the depths of your being, made in God's image, where you're most in touch with the divine spark of your identity, your essence of what you're most made for, and not simply living on the surface of what is superficial, where no longer being taken out of the super lifestyle and now hungry for life substance, where we begin to question, what's it all about? What's the meaning of life? What's this all for? We can experience that sometimes, the disappointments, frustrations, the emptiness of life. That, you know what? After all of my pursuits of whatever I thought was going to make me happy, seeking my own identity apart from his purpose, apart from him having anything to do with it, just my will and my way and my ideas and my dreams and myself being the author of my own destiny. And after having pursued as best as I could to accomplish and possess the things that would make me happy, to seek the people that I thought would make me happy, why is there something still missing? Why is there still something unshakably empty? And sometimes we have to get to that place of that raw reality that without God, we have nothing. It's only then that veil can sometimes be removed, where God's love is fully revealed when we're most vulnerable. And it's in those moments that can become timeless in our soul, where we can experience a taste of Easter, the victory of the explosion of God's life that we're made for. And once we taste that, and I'm distracted by the memory of 𝓛𝓲𝓯𝓮, don't you want to taste of the glory? See what it tastes like. Once we taste that glory, for real though, like literally, there is the possibility we're made to taste the glory, and we can. It's available. God's love is at hand. He wants us to taste his grace as a medicine that nothing else can provide, that nothing else can heal. And once we taste that glory, it puts everything else in perspective. And so as we come to worship Jesus in this Eucharist, we're not simply commemorating an amazing story, something that happened in history, an incredible moment. Jesus is here alive as risen Lord to renew in the mystery of our life, the mystery of who he is for us. And when we allow ourselves to be loved on the deepest level of who we are, and are willing to offer our lives to be totally his, that he may become totally ours, we can get a foretaste of heaven in our heart on earth. Because that's why God made the whole world. God doesn't care about climate change. God doesn't care about the beauty of what he has made, the beauty of the mountains, the beauty of the birds, the beauty of these crazy parrots in this area of Southern California, the beauty of nature with its well springs and all the amazing creatures in the ocean and in the forests, and all the beauty of what he has made that is enormous, that makes us go wow with awe and wonder in the awesomeness of nature in this planet. In the end, he doesn't care about it, figuratively speaking, if he loses us in the process. That's why he made all of this, was to win us for him and for all that is his, which is far greater than anything he has made and he has given us here. But we get so caught up in all of this that we forget him. There's this Christian rapper, or a rapper who's Christian, Andy Mineo, and he says, we're so caught up in the invention, we forget the inventor. We're so caught up in all these other pursuits that we forget that He's the love we're ultimately made for. More than your husband or your wife, more than your sons and your daughters, more than your mother and your father, your brother and your sister. He is the love we're ultimately made for. So when you who are married find yourself in bed with your spouse, your husband or your wife, and they're snoring up a storm and you can't go to sleep and you're feeling empty, you're feeling lonely, and you're right next to somebody, it's because your hearts are made for God alone. And no human being can fully satisfy the infinite yearning of what you're made for, which is in the image and likeness of God, who is eternal. The greatest mystery of who we are is not of this world. It's not about our appearance. It's not about how attractive we are or how much attention we get from other people. It's not about who we are and comparing ourselves to others. It's not about the amount of money we make, the kind of car we drive, the clothes we wear, the house we live in. It's not about any of that. It's about who He is in us and how we live in Him. I know we're all weak. I know that very well, firsthand, looking at myself in the mirror. We're fragile. We're wounded. We're broken. We're defective. We all got defects. We all got gaps. We all got problems. But we also got a lot of gifts. We're all beautiful, precious, made with a dignity that is out of this world. Because God who is in us is our identity. And His love and victory is our destiny. And He is the ultimate life we're made for. The explosion of life. And once we taste that glory, it makes us realize we have a foretaste of heaven, our true home, that puts everything in perspective. The book of Revelation, in talking about this triumph, says there will be no more tears. God will wipe the tears from our eyes with tenderness. There will be no more death, no more suffering. And it's there that we'll be able to see that all the contradictions, all the humiliations, all the sacrifices, all that most hurt us, all that was most challenging, in the end will end up becoming our greatest gifts. Because from our wounds will shine the greatest glory, where God was alive and at work in our life. Because it was those things that took us out of ourselves, enabled us to overcome ourselves, that we may give ourselves completely to Him and allow ourselves to become who we are meant to be for Him. And in the end, that's all that matters. Who we are in His image and likeness, not in anyone else's eyes. As we celebrate this Eucharist, we're invited to taste this glory of Jesus Christ, His love unveiled, that His fire of life, light, and love may inspire the glory we are made for and the surrender that He needs from us to allow Him to be who He wants to be for us and in us. I'm going to conclude with this. I was assisting at Holy Communion at 9 o'clock, and this precious little child, I love seeing small children at the communion rail. They're just a reflection, the closest reflection to heaven on this earth, even more than the mountains and a beautiful sunrise and sunset. And this little child was watching his mom taking communion. He goes, "Mom, what's that? What are you eating? Give me some of that." She wasn't eating a cracker. The Eucharist on a human level is tasteless. It's no big deal. But for those who have the eyes to see and the heart that is open to believe, this is the greatest mystery we are made for. The love of loves of God's Son made flesh in the Eucharist, crucified and risen, to give us the explosion of his life in us, a life to which nothing else can compare. May we taste this glory and glorify him by our life, with all of our littleness, with all of our ordinariness, to give him all that we are, to be all his, that we may be fully one now and for all eternity.